Pari, great opening keynote. I always enjoy that. And driving down here this morning, I thought I'd been at Confluence for 3 or 4 years till Vamsi reminded me I've been coming here since 2009. So it's been around a long time. It's great to see every year the conference grow and grow. And Pari's keynote was very insightful in terms of new models, new disruptive technologies. But I think one thing that he didn't talk about was the death of the unicorns, if you will, right? So a whole bunch of companies, 100+ companies in the past year became valued at over $1 billion. Now the question is what happens to those companies this year and beyond, right? So many of them were funded to really start some of these new innovations and disruptions. They took in a lot of money, they tried a lot of different tricks, and now they're running out of money. Some are getting sold, some might close down, and some might have to prepare for the long haul. So I think that's another underlying theme that I think we should explore today, is what happens to these companies that were well-funded, but maybe not as well-funded now, or new companies starting are not going to get as much money to create new technology. So that's something that's happened, and I think for those of us in the Valley who were here in the last bubble in the 99-2000 timeframe, I think this bubble burst, I hope Frank you'll agree with me as well, in probably fourth quarter of last year. I don't think we ever heard it burst, but now we can kind of see the results of that. No IPOs, lower valuations, and so forth. But next up, we have Frank Kern. Frank used to be a senior executive at IBM, and I don't know why he retired from IBM, and then Aricent said, hey, we got to get Frank to do some more work, right? But Frank has an amazing perspective, both from IBM as well as what he does at Aricent, on all the new technologies, whether it's big data, machine learning, deep learning. I mean, there's so many things out there. I think Frank will really enlighten us more by bringing a practical, kind of look at all the emerging technologies. And his keynote is titled, Crafting the Future of Technology. Frank?
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, how many people here work for companies that are being digitally disrupted? Simple question. Okay, that's what we're talking about today, digital disruption. And what I'd like to talk about is how do we deal with it? There's something called digital durability to deal with digital disruption. And so today I'd like to cover 3 things. First off, why is there disruption? Why? Second thing is the companies that are innovative and are really dealing with this, that are digitally durable, what are the attributes of their culture? Just share some thoughts from what we've been observing. And the third thing is, we've been developing in Aricent a technology vision 2016, looking at some trends and some best practices for becoming and building a digitally durable environment. And I'd like to share that. There's some ideas. Maybe you can come back and tell us what you think about those. Start off with the 4th Industrial Revolution. A lot of people are talking about it. You've heard about it. There's lots of books being written about it. There's a gentleman, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, has been writing books about it. Is there a 4th Industrial Revolution? What do you think? Is there? Yes. Few people think so. Well, the first one was in the 18th century, steam and water power, mechanized production. The second, electric power, that created mass production. The third one, electronics and information technology, the 1960s, to automate production. And now something completely different is taking place, completely different. All of a sudden, we're fusing technology with the real world. This is different. We're putting sensors and chips on physical and biological items everywhere. This is different. It's also happening at a scale and a speed that has never occurred before. This is different. It's creating a tsunami of disruption. It's creating a tsunami. It's an exponential change. It's moving at a pace that's not linear. It's exponential. And this is the disruption that we're all dealing with. because things are shifting. The revolution is occurring. Now, what do you do when this happens? Well, that's where we're introducing this idea of digital durability. Digital durability. Digital durability is about anticipating what's happening, being able to anticipate. And then, as you anticipate, to start to build the processes, the products that can change, that can transform to deal with this environment. Now, who does that? In a company, who does that? It's the R&D organization. The R&D organization is now even more critical than ever before because it has the responsibility for the products, the services, and the changes that are taking place, and to anticipate and to transform those things for the future. And so I am putting out there this idea that the R&D organization is now the key to what's happening and to the changes to deal with digital disruption. Now, digital durability. We've been looking at this. We've been looking at companies that are digitally durable, and we're starting to see a series of attributes, cultural attributes, and they're reinforcing themselves over and over. If you look right here, you'll see 4 attributes. You may have some others. You may think some of these are more important than others. Intense customer affinity, product development nimbleness, R&D learning loops, and long-tail innovation. Let me go through these one by one. Intense customer affinity. Intense customer affinity. A great example is Apple, the iPhone. Now, Apple is a company that is design-led. We're fortunate because we know a little bit about it because the founder of Frog Design, which is part of Aricent, actually worked with Steve Jobs in the 80s and had strong beliefs about design-led companies and strong beliefs about customers and the intensity that you had to focus on customers. Well, the iPhone is a product that's personalized. It's a personal experience. And there's a close affinity. There's an executive from Aricent here today by the name of Cami Schellmeyer. She'll be on one of the panels. She left her iPhone in an Uber yesterday in Dallas, Texas. She was frantic last evening. The personal connection of that iPhone to Cami, she's sitting right over here, she's smiling, was so intense that she was quite distracted last night. It is a product and a company that you know has that intense customer affinity. Whoops. That will come back on. Now, what about product development and nimbleness? Product development and nimbleness is the ability to be nimble, to be agile, to adjust to the markets at the speed required. It also means that you may have to change organizations. You may have to adjust things to adapt to what's going on. General Electric has done that. There were comments about GE Health earlier today. GE created something called GE Digital. They have a chief digital officer. They took their software center. They took their IT globally. They took their commercial software and they put it with World Tech and created this to have an organization that could adapt and be nimble. Something new, something interesting. Now, how about R&D learning loops? Software-centric, programmable, platform-based, ways to do things that are very fast and efficient in a learning environment. Tesla, I know people know about Tesla, the stories of Tesla. You have a recall. It happened in 2014, 29,000 S models. How did they do it? Over the air. They updated the software over the air. Another major manufacturer had a recall at the same time, sent out the notes, brought the cars into the dealerships, had lots of labor, time, and expense. Very different. Last year, Tesla had a semi-autonomous software upgrade. Over the air, sent it out. My nephew has a Tesla, received it, got it in his Tesla, is driving from here to Nevada in a semi-autonomous mode. Very, very interesting. And then long-tail innovation. This one's fascinating. Long-tail innovation is about looking for areas, niches, industry specialties, and experimenting there and experimenting elsewhere. The example here is Google. I find this interesting because 95% of the population of the world has cellular coverage. Cellular coverage. But only 10% of the world's landmass is actually covered. So 90% of the landmass of the Earth does not have the ability to get mobile phone coverage. So Google comes up with an idea, high altitude balloons, and ability to get LTE by a network of these balloons, experimenting with new approaches and new ideas. So those are some attributes of cultures that can be digitally durable, the customer intensity, the product nimbleness, this whole idea of R&D learning loops, and the long-tail innovation. But now, the point I was making before about the trends and what we're building in our technology vision. And this is, I like to put this out there, some ideas. Some you might think are good, some you might think need to be added to. But let me just share this. We're calling them practices for building digital durability. And the thesis is companies will need to be digitally durable to be able to deal with the changes that are taking place. 4 major practices identified, and I think these tie in with what Pari was talking about. Drive smart outcomes with smart services with excellent customer experiences. Second is design for billions of things. Billions of things. And do that, obviously, with software and with software that's secure. Innovate with and beyond silicon. With and beyond. And leverage the phenomenal innovation taking place in that industry. And then navigate unconventional connectivity, which is vital in a digital era with everything being connected. So, let me talk for a minute about driving smart outcomes with smart services. This is all about how you provide services and how products are moving to services. Lots of examples, you've heard them already, how you can take and sell jet engines, or you can take and provide a service, and how you can reduce the fuel cost for an airline. You can provide the algorithms and the information that helps to do that. How you can provide smart energy services that reduce the energy usage in a commercial building. You're transferring a product into a service. To do this, though, you really should always start with design. I mentioned this with Apple, but it should always start with design. Human-centered design. Start with the person, and start with empathy for the person. All design and good design has that as the beginning. And this concept of human-centered design has become well known, but it's actually been around 30 or 40 years. Apple is a design-led business, and there are others that are very strongly embracing design and design leadership. But it starts with the customer. If you really understand what the customer and the customer experience is, you can design everything to it. If you understand in automobiles What does the customer experience look like, feel like in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? You can design an automobile, and you can design the chips in the automobile to deliver that experience. Millennials don't like cars. Millennials don't buy cars. I like to drive cars. My daughter doesn't even care if she has one. She'll never give up her smartphone, but she does not care if she has a car. Well, how do you get an experience in an automobile that people actually are attracted to it? So you have to design for the customer experience. We've been thinking a lot about this. We did one project looking at dangerous environments. What's the experience of being in a dangerous environment? What's the experience of being a miner in a dangerous environment? And we started there, and then we designed a smart helmet. Frog did the design, and then our engineers built it. What's a smart helmet? It's a helmet that an individual wears to go into a dangerous situation like a mine that has sensors and provides them with information about what's happening. If something is shifting in the ground, they know it. It's also connected so that somebody's monitoring exactly where every person in the mine is. And if there's any seismic activity, you can take actions beforehand. Mining accidents are, traumatic, and we've all heard about many of them. But through smart helmets combined with a platform that you can provide even as a service, you can deal with that. But it starts with the customer, it starts with the person, the user, and you design backwards from it. So this is very, very powerful. I get excited when I talk about design-led. One last statement about it. There's a design institute, the Design Management Institute. They've done some work looking at the value of companies that are design-led. In 2014, companies that they classified as design-led beat the S&P by 219%. It's an interesting statistic. Companies that are design-led beat the S&P in 2014 by 219%. They also categorized some new companies that they view are being design-led. Google, Amazon, SAP, Honeywell, GE, in addition to companies like an Apple. Pretty interesting. Now, the other part of smart outcomes with smart services that we have talked about is think about platforms, pervasive platform thinking. We've talked about moving things from products to services, but think about platforms, the platform world. As things go into platforms, you can provide those as a service, and it's very powerful. And now we're starting to think about APIs. Application program interfaces used to be a technical term. APIs are now a business model. A business model. If you've heard about the API economy is counting APIs to determine the value of a company. A company that has more APIs has more value. We used to value things by hard assets. Now you can actually count APIs. Honeywell has an API program to connect their devices to other IoT devices. Pretty powerful. APIs are opening up a world to connect to platforms. It's a fascinating idea. So driving smart outcomes, smart services, starting with the human-centered design, and pervasive platform thinking. This is fascinating and very powerful. So that's the first practice. The second, this keeps going out, is to design for billions of things. Billions of things. Gartner says that from about 6 billion today to 2020, there'll be over 20 billion devices out there connected to the internet. Those are devices. There'll be many, many more sensors everywhere. Well, as you have billions of things, are we thinking about and designing for it? Well, this gets into, we have to have ability to scale rapidly and in a secure environment. So we've been talking a lot about software-defined networks. It's really turned into software-defined everything. And it must turn into software-defined security. It must. We must have software-defined security. Going along with this is the open hardware, obviously separating the hardware and software, and the open hardware is a requirement that goes along with it. But it's designing for the billions of things and the escalation of this, the exponential escalation that's coming. The third practice is to navigate unconventional connectivity. Extreme, short-range, innovative, unconventional connectivity. Everybody is waiting for 5G to come. We've been working in our company on LTE since 2007. We do lots of stuff in that regard. But everybody's now waiting for 5G. It's several years away, the standards and the deployment. And yes, we all hope it will handle hundreds of millions of low-power devices. Yes, we all hope it's going to be 100 times faster than LTE of today. That's terrific. And we hope it's here soon. But on the way, we have to do things with the technologies we have. We have to look at low-powered solutions that have connectivity, near-field communications. We need to look at extreme and different forms of connectivity. We have to look at how LTE and Wi-Fi coexist. And we also have to look at novel connectivity options, novel communications approaches. I really do think the Google balloons, the high-altitude balloons, are very unique. But look at Facebook. They're talking about putting up 737-size drones. 737 size. Both Google and Facebook are talking about high-altitude platforms. And then you have OneWeb and SpaceX talking and planning for low-altitude small satellites, a network of those around the world for connectivity. These are things to think about, plan for, design for, because the communications is going to be absolutely key in the digital era. And then the last of the four practices, the trends, are innovate with and beyond silicon. Moore's law continues. Silicon continues to speed up and get smaller. And there's lots of things happening with silicon. There's also what's being called more than more. MTM. So someday, beyond CMOS, there'll be other things. But let's stay on the silicon for the moment. Specialized chips. Think about value in specialized chips. Qualcomm has announced a power-efficient Snapdragon. It can handle Wi-Fi, LTE, and some very unique algorithms. So specialized chips can do lots of different things. What about the value in algorithms? Algorithms can do lots of analytics, provide lots of outcome-based solutions. So think about the value in algorithms and the value of ecosystems, working with partners and others to put together the solutions on the chips, the algorithms on the chips to produce innovative solutions. So those are four ideas. These are part of what our technology vision has been working on. I would love to get input, feedback on these, because these are ideas that we're putting out there. But it is about building digital durability, digital durability. In the end, though, success in the digital era is going to be customer-driven. It is going to be customer-driven. There is this tsunami. It is there. I know we can't ignore it anymore. It does take a culture that fits this digital durability, can handle everything that's happening. And I would just suggest that These ideas are just that at the moment, but everybody needs to build digital durability. And for outcome-based solutions in this era, partners are important. If you're developing hardware, software, connectivity, and creating an outcome, people need to partner. They need to work with others, find solutions. So those are some ideas. I appreciate sharing them. Am I turning it back to you?
I have one question for you.
There's one question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Frank, that was a terrific talk. Question, you said to make the design-led organization, you would nominate the R&D group within a company? Or how do they get a seat at the table with the executive staff of the company, and how do they really become the leaders in that movement?
Well, look, the R&D organization, you are the leaders in the companies. There's no question about it. And I would suggest and encourage to recommend, come forward to the executives, and suggest what you know needs to be done. I'll just give you an example. Mohan Rangan's here from Aricent, and he's a chief technology officer in our company. I listen to him. I listen to everything he says. We were talking this morning about some service line ideas. The people that know what's happening in the environment, understand the dynamics of it, are in research and development. And the executive team of any company and the CEOs of any company needs the input. So I would tell you to be very vocal, to be very much in the forefront of putting together what you think needs to be done and put it out there. You can do it both in ideas and you can do it in organizational recommendations. The design-led part, if you're not doing that today, do it. I mean, it is such, get the data together on it, it is such a dramatic impact on any company or any organization today. And that is where we see, if people shift and put a design-led focus on, you will see the acceleration of a business and of business values.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Let me finish with one thought before I leave.
Okay.
Because we're talking about change, revolution. How many people know the Who? The Who. This is too young a group. Okay. The Who was a band. They played music back when some of us were around. They had a song in 1971. It said, "Take a bow for the new revolution, smile and grin at the change all around." I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank.